Somewhere right now, someone is standing in front of an open refrigerator, cold air spilling out onto bare feet, staring at shelves they've already seen 100 times today, not looking for food at all. Just looking. That's not hunger. That's something else entirely. Something quieter and stranger, and almost nobody ever stops long enough to ask what it actually is. Here's the real question worth actually sitting with for a moment. Why do we open the fridge when we're not even hungry? Sometimes minutes after eating a full meal, sometimes without even fully registering we've walked into the kitchen at all. By the end of this, you'll understand the strange loop running quietly behind that habit. And it connects directly to two things we've already uncovered together: why Americans tip the way they do, and why we get so little vacation time compared to the rest of the developed world. All three, it turns out, share the exact same hidden mechanism, hiding in plain sight the whole time. Let's start with the obvious explanation, the one almost everyone assumes first without thinking twice about it. Maybe it's just boredom. Maybe it's just a snack instinct kicking in. Simple, right? Except that doesn't hold up under any real scrutiny, and here's the proof. People open the fridge this way even when there's genuinely nothing in it they actually want to eat. They look, they close it. Nothing changes, nothing gets eaten. If this were really about hunger, that specific behavior would make absolutely no sense at all. Here's the twist most people never expect. This isn't a food behavior at all, whatever it might look like from the outside. It's a habit behavior. And habits, unlike appetite, don't run on hunger at all. They run on cues. Researchers studying habit formation, including work coming out of MIT on a deep ancient part of the brain called the basal ganglia, have found that once a behavior gets repeated enough times in the same context, the brain starts running it almost automatically, on a kind of mental autopilot, triggered not by need, but by a cue in the environment, a location, a time of day, a feeling. The fridge becomes one of those triggers. Not because you're hungry, but because standing in the kitchen, feeling a certain way at a certain hour has become quietly linked to opening that door. The same way a specific song can instantly pull up a memory you weren't trying to think about. Think of it like a well-worn hiking trail, cut through tall grass. The first time you walk somewhere new, you have to think carefully about where to step, watching the ground, choosing each footfall on purpose. After enough repetitions, your feet know the way without you deciding anything at all. You could practically walk it with your eyes closed. The fridge door works the same way. Your body isn't asking, "Am I hungry?" It's just following the trail, the one worn smooth by hundreds of identical trips before this one. Now flip that idea upside down, because here's what almost nobody realizes. The fridge isn't usually open because of hunger at all. It's open because of a feeling underneath the hunger. Boredom, stress, procrastination, restlessness, the low hum of a task you'd rather not start. And food happens to be the fastest, most reliable relief available in most homes, closer and easier than almost any other option. Imagine sitting down to start a difficult task, one you've been putting off all week. Within minutes, somehow, you're standing in the kitchen. Not because your body needs fuel, because your brain is quietly looking for a small, safe escape, and the fridge offers one in under 10 seconds with almost no effort and absolutely no consequences. Here's an "I never thought about that" moment. The reward your brain is actually chasing isn't the food itself, most of the time. It's a tiny break in attention, the short walk, the pause, the flicker of choice, the brief distraction from whatever you were quietly avoiding in the first place. The food is almost incidental, an afterthought your hand grabs on the way back. The fridge is just the nearest door that happened to be open to walk through. That's the quiet trap. Once this loop forms, it becomes incredibly hard to notice, let alone interrupt. Because it doesn't feel like a decision at any point along the way. It feels like nothing happened at all. You were sitting, focused on something else entirely, and then you were standing at the fridge with the door already open, and there's no clear moment in between where you can point and say, "That's exactly where I chose this." Remember those two other habits I mentioned earlier, tipping and vacation time? Notice the same shape reappearing here, one more time, in a completely different setting. In all three cases, a system keeps running quietly in the background, year after year, not because anyone sat down and designed it on purpose, but because nobody's ever been forced to stop and actually look at it directly, closely, without flinching. We're getting closer now to understanding the one thing that ties tipping, vacation time, and this fridge habit together. And it's smaller and stranger than you'd expect. Back to the fridge though, because there's one more layer. Here's a genuinely strange detail. The light coming on when you open the door plays a bigger role in this than most people realize. That small burst of brightness, that little reveal after a second of darkness, functions almost like a tiny reward all on its own. A miniature version of the anticipation you feel refreshing an app, waiting to see what new thing might be waiting inside. Your brain doesn't actually need the outcome to be exciting. It just needs the possibility of something new, however small, however familiar the contents almost certainly are. Which means the fridge isn't really being opened for what's inside it most of the time. It's being opened for the 2 seconds of anticipation right before the light turns on, the tiny flicker of maybe that costs nothing and asks nothing of you. Here's the answer, and it's smaller than most people expect. Opening the fridge without hunger isn't really about food at all. It's your brain running a well-worn loop toward the easiest, closest source of a tiny reward. Light, novelty, a pause, a brief escape, dressed up convincingly as a search for a snack. That's not a character flaw, and it's definitely not laziness. Whatever the voice in your head might say about it later, it's simply how habit loops work in every single human brain on the planet, quietly, underneath conscious awareness, running the exact same way whether you're doing it yourself or watching someone else do it from across the room. So the next time you catch yourself standing at the open fridge for no clear reason, staring at the same shelves you saw an hour ago, here's the reframe. You're not actually hungry. You're mid-loop, following a well-worn trail your brain built a long time ago. One repetition at a time without ever once asking your permission first. That's the answer to the question I opened with. And it's the same answer in a different costume behind why Americans keep tipping into a system built on an old wage loophole nobody officially closed, and behind why so few of us ever question a vacation policy that barely exists on paper at all, if it exists in any real, legally guaranteed form whatsoever. Tipping is a loophole nobody closed. Vacation is a law nobody wrote. The fridge is a loop nobody noticed, running quietly beneath the surface of an ordinary evening. 3 completely different rooms in the same house. A house built quietly. By default, one small decision at a time, while nobody was really looking closely, and rarely questioned once it was already standing there, familiar and unremarkable. You'll never look at an open refrigerator the same way again. And now that you've seen all 3 patterns clearly, laid out side by side, the wage gap hiding in your restaurant bill, the missing law hiding in your calendar, and the loop hiding in your own kitchen, you'll probably start noticing a 4th one and a 5th one in places you never once thought to look before tonight.